All right. Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Coming at you today with some more shorts. Hoping they'll jog some certain activity in your brain waves to get you going and doing something about your own life as it relates to the insanity. The insanity that's among us, that is patently observable, and people are not paying attention to it. So we're going to run through a bunch of shorts again today and just hoping we can trigger some thought processes in people. So enjoy.
I understand the game. I've been on the other side all of my life, and they have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably, and I'm not sure if there's another system, but I say this: I am not accepting any money from anybody. Nobody has control of me other than the people of this country. I'm going to do the right thing. I understand the game. I've been on the other side all of my life, and they have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably, and I'm not sure if there's another system, but I say this: I am not accepting any money from anybody. Nobody has control of me other than the people of this country. I'm going to do the right thing. I understand the game. I've been on the other side all of my life, and they have a lot of control over our politicians. And I don't say that favorably, and I'm not sure if there's another system, but I say this: I am not accepting any money from anybody. Nobody has control of me other than the people of this country. I'm going to do the right thing.
That's all we really have to do, folks, is do the right thing. It doesn't matter if you're a president or a resident. Do the right thing. Correct that which is patently wrong. Things that you can observe that are absolutely wrong, that without a reason or a doubt, you know is wrong. See something, say something. Speak truthfully, speak from the spirit.
She has the baby in the United States, and we take care of the baby for 85 years. I don't think so. And by the way, Mexico and almost every other country anywhere in the world doesn't have that. We're the only ones dumb enough, stupid enough to have it. And people, and by the way, this is not just with respect to Mexico. They're coming from Asia to have babies here, and all of a sudden we have to take care of the babies for the life of the baby. A woman gets pregnant.
In case you don't understand what that is, that's the birth registration. That's the immigration documentation that creates a citizenship. That citizenship claiming that you're a resident. See, when that baby is born here, they have an automatic, like he said, they're automatically set up to take care of that child for the next 85 years. Okay? And that's because that claim is that baby was born as a resident. This is an impossibility. You cannot be a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board when you are born and they get a birth document. They are not the same. Remember Sesame Street? It is patently observable. Even a third grader can understand it.
She's 9 months. She walks across the border. She has the baby in the United States, and we take care of the baby for 85 years. I don't think so. And by the way, Mexico and almost every other country anywhere in the world doesn't have that. We're the only ones dumb enough, stupid enough to have it. And people, and by the way, this is not just with respect to Mexico. They're coming from Asia to have babies here, and all of a sudden we have to take care of the babies for the life of the baby. A woman.
See how ridiculous that is, folks? Now pay attention to the next one as it relates to the president. Qualifications. We saw one yesterday where one of the House pages was for Biden's cabinet has 6 cases. Low, minimal district court misdemeanor cases, and all of a sudden somebody, and many people evidently, think that she's qualified to fill in a space in the presidential cabinet. So please pay attention.
Now, I'm a professional athlete and I've been one for most of my life, so I've always seen things through a sports lens. That makes Donald Trump our head coach. And before the global pandemic, we were winning Super Bowls. And when you're winning Super Bowls, you don't fire the coach. It doesn't matter if you don't like the plays he runs, the players he puts on the field, or what he says on Twitter. You sure as hell don't replace him for another coach that's been in the business for 47 years at every level and never won a game.
You see what we got? We had a president that was not a politician and did so much for the country. They then turned around and saw that as a threat because the wealth was being put back in the people. They couldn't have it. So they did everything in their abilities to strike him from presidency, claiming that Biden won that presidential election. Now, I didn't vote, and I know my vote would never have counted. But that's part of the problem. Because when you leave it up to people that are going to govern for themselves and leave the people out as the beneficiaries who are giving all the data elements, the statistical record, which is the beneficial record, and use it all for themselves without teaching the people what it is and how it's used, that's why you're slaves. That's why we go through this insanity.
Now, I'm a professional athlete and I've been one for most of my life, so I've always seen things through a sports lens.
Trump told you the system was rigged. And when asked how he knew, he said he's involved in it. He uses it. And then Obama and Hillary Clinton tried to say, oh, no, that's not true. And he fired right back at him. Yes, it is. That's why everybody's complaining about why I don't pay taxes. Because you use the same tax regulations. Re-regulate or rewrite the tax laws, and he'll pay taxes. But as they are now, you're not you don't have to pay taxes. He blatantly stated that in open forum. It's in the public record. Biden, like this man said, 47 years he's been a politician, and not once has he ever won on any issue. None. Not only that, but there are many statements in the public record that this man is a racist.
That makes Donald Trump our head coach. And before the global pandemic, we were winning Super Bowls. And when you're winning Super Bowls, you don't fire the coach. It doesn't matter if you don't like the plays he runs, the players he puts on the field, or what he says on Twitter. You sure as hell don't replace him for another coach that's been in the business for 47 years at every level and never.
At every level. He started out at the bottom and moved his way up because he had nothing else he could do. And not once did he ever win. Look at his record. And again, when you see that he's never won and that he's a racist, how good can a racist movement in the Democratic Party be so good for the American people?
Never won a game.
Here's a good one as it relates to your vote. And pay attention to the current times and the record that says you cannot vote if you're a felon.
You can run for president of the United States with a felony on your record. But in many states, if you have a felony on your record, you cannot vote for president of the United States. Meaning you are so civically irresponsible that we will not trust you with a ballot, but we'll let you run the nation's highest office. Does that make sense? You can run for president of the United States with a felony on your record. But in many states, if you have a felony on your record, you cannot vote for president of the United States. Meaning you are so civically irresponsible that we will not trust you with a ballot, but we'll let you run the nation's highest office. Does that make sense? You can run for president of the United States with a felony on your record. But in many states, if you have a felony on your record, you cannot vote for president of the United States. Meaning you are so civically irresponsible that we will not trust you with a ballot, but we'll let you run the nation's highest office. Does that make sense?
My apologies. I was muted last time. My apologies, sincerely. But think about this, folks. We have laws in this nation that say you can't vote if you're a felon, but you can be the president of which other people can vote for if you're a felon. How do these laws, as they pose them, prove to be sane at all? It's pure insanity to think that if you are a dishonorable man by the record, by stating you're a felon, can head or lead a country, an entire nation. But yet, if you're convicted of that same felony, you cannot vote. Remember the video on parlay? See, a parlay is a vote. And even among thieves, everybody poses to vote for the most honorable man, and therefore they cast the vote for themselves. If each man casted a vote for themselves, it's because they think they're the most honorable man. If you've got a man that's posing to vote for somebody else as an honorable man, it poses that they think the other man is more honorable than themselves. So again, I ask you, if you think you're honorable, do you think your vote counts in such a dishonorable system?
Greetings. Hello, everyone. It's Goose. This video takes place at night.
What's up?
Turn the vehicle off for me.
Why?
Because I fucking said so. You roll it up, I'm breaking it. I promise you that. Turn your car off. Your hands on the steering wheel. Do not fucking drop them. Open the door.
Why?
Because I said so. Open the door, I'm going to break it.
Why?
Because I'm going to pull you out of this car. Open the fucking door or I'm going to break the fucking window.
At this point in time, this officer has stated no cause of action yet. You have a right to know why they pull you over. And rather than follow his job, which he claims he's doing, he's just doing his job. No, you voided your job when you violated your very position of stating a claim. Now you're merely terrorizing.
Over.
Window tint expired reg. Now open the fucking door before I break your window. Stop. Stop reaching around.
I got it. My tag's right here.
I don't care. Did I ask for your tags? You have 3 seconds.
Of course he didn't ask for his tags because he's already voided his job. Like I said, he's refusing to tell the young man why he pulled him over. This is terrorism at its finest, folks. And if you think it's never going to happen to you because all the policemen out there are honorable, you're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. Think I don't have enough experience with this kind of bullshit? While they arrest me for being assaulted? I was assaulted and they arrested me and claimed they have a live one.
Have 3 seconds. 3,
Why did
2,
you pull me over?
I just told you. Open the fucking door.
No, he didn't tell him. I just told you. No, he didn't. We all heard it. He never made any claim about why he pulled him over. None.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
As you saw, the driver did flee the scene. Who could blame him? The way he was being.
So yeah, the driver fled. He had every right to. He had every reason to. He had every logical thought process saying, get out of here. Quit raising your children as fucking slaves, telling them they have to listen to these people because they're their authority. The fuck they are. If your mom and dad stand there and tell you, Keith, the police are your authority, you know instantly they're fucking insane. They're fucking insane.
Talked to, his window was busted out. He probably thought the officer was going to beat the shit out of him. What's your thoughts on this video? Comment and let us know. Greetings. Hello everyone, it's Goose. This video takes place at night.
What's up?
Turn the vehicle off for me.
Why?
Because I fucking said so. You roll it up, I'm breaking it. I promise you that. Turn your car off. Your hands on the steering wheel. Do not fucking drop them. Open the door.
Why?
Because I said so. Open the door, I'm going to break.
See, these guys go around thinking that they have every right to do anything they need to get you out of that vehicle, out of that car. They don't. They have already voided diplomatic channels of notice. The natural man is not supposed to be acting or interacting with the natural man in this fashion. It can only be done in person. And therefore, there has to be documentation exchange. That documentation has to be warranted. It has to have warranted and valid information. If that information is in error and they operate on it, that's because they presume that information is correct. Because that information is nothing but a presumption to begin with. It's known as a legal fiction. Until you learn how to declare or discern and declare the differences, you are fucked. So young people, if you have a mom and dad that are teaching you that the police are your authority, I urge you to do some further research. They are not your authority. They only have authority through diplomatic channels of notice. Legal notice is the first duty in law. That legal notice goes to the liability. The liability is in the record, just like the benefit is in the record. They exist in the record, nowhere else. They are not observable anywhere else. The name is in the record. It is not observable on me or in me. I do not hold it. I do not have it. I do not own it. It is not mine. It is something other people use to call me.
Break it.
Why?
Because I'm going to pull you out of this car. Open the fucking door or I'm going to break the fucking window.
Why am I pulled over?
Window tint, expired reg. Now open the fucking door before I break your window. Stop. Stop reaching around.
I got it. My tag's right here.
I don't care. Did I ask for your tags? You have 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds. 3,
Why did
2,
you pull me over?
I just told you. Open the fucking door.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
As you saw, the driver did flee the scene. Who could blame him? The way he was being talked to, his window was busted out. He probably thought the officer was going to beat the shit out of him.
And by the way, he talks to him. So when you don't like the way I fucking talk, fuck off. Little bit of comedy to lighten the mood there now. Because I really do appreciate you listening to the way I fucking talk.
Neighborhood really was just poor black and poor white. And so I hear a lot about white privilege, and I'm like, fuck, man. Missed that. I mean, I knew some motherfuckers with sweaters, okay? Don't get me wrong, you know? But I was 2 tank tops in the winter. And my black friends will get mad at me, man. Like, man, look what you did to us, man. Look what you did to us. Like, bro, do you think I would do all that shit and move right next door, bro? Now we gonna split these plums or not, man? Fucking, we're down here together, dude. You think I took all your shit and just don't have it?
See, and this is what really gets me going sometimes is people that sit there and want to say that I'm the lying one. I'm the one lying. I'm the one showing you the fact, the material facts in their record, in their codes, in their laws, and yet I'm the one that's committing fraud. This is just fucking insane.
Somebody else has both of our shit. And they're watching us fight over it. That neighborhood really was just poor black and poor white. And so I hear a lot about white privilege, and I'm like, fuck, man. Missed that. I mean, I knew some motherfuckers with sweaters, okay? Don't get me wrong, you know? But I was 2 tank tops in the winter. And my black friends will get mad at me, man. Like, man, look what you did to us, man. Look what you did to us.
See, and this is another thing. Look what you did to us. Look what you. They're still doing this today. They want that. They want reparations. You're not going to get reparations. Okay, you're not going to get reparations for things that weren't done to you. You can only get reparations for things that were done to you. You want to get reparations through some chain of title that doesn't even exist because the chain of title is broken, and you still don't want to recognize your chain of title isn't a piece of paper. It's what entitles you to your rights, and they were God-given and not by another man. People need to wake up. It's fucking insane.
Like, bro, do you think I would do all that shit and move right next door, bro? Now we gonna split these plums or not, man? Fucking, we're down here together, dude. You think I took all your shit and just don't have it?
And this is a guy that don't have it, but he's got plums, and he ain't got nothing else, but he's willing to share them plums. See, that's when your cup filleth over. See, that's when you have everything you need and you're still living and you know you're going to have what you need tomorrow because you're still alive. So anything you have that throughout that day that you can share, you should be sharing it. This is not a socialist network. This isn't a fascist network. This isn't a communist. It's not a political network at all. It's supposed to be a natural spiritual element that we all have to be just creative and sharing. Too many people are full of greed, want everything that everybody else has. And because they didn't share it with them, oh, now they got to go steal it from. It's just fucking insane. You don't get to live off the sweat of somebody else's back. And if they didn't give you something, there's probably a good reason for it. Maybe you ought to pipe up next time and be a little bit more spiritual, put a little more effort into things, do a little bit maintaining carefulness to be sure that the things that you do are good and profitable unto men and not some kind of fucking greed to fill your own pockets.
Somebody else has both of our shit. And they're watching us fight over it. That neighborhood really was just poor black and poor white. And so I hear a lot about white privilege, and I'm like, fuck, man. Missed that. I mean, I knew some motherfuckers with sweaters, okay?
Okay, people, pay attention. Like I said, everything is observable. And if you go back to the natural spiritual elements, you'll find out what the black and white's all about in every different venue. As it goes to the marriage, pay attention. As it goes to the death, pay attention.
There's a reason why the dress for the man is the same at a wedding and a funeral, because you're saying goodbye to your previous self. The woman is the icon, the symbol of beauty.
The woman, as that symbol of beauty, is the symbol of what we observe. It's the material world. And that's what we're supposed to observe, is the material world. So as men, we're supposed to observe the women as a symbol of beauty, not in their image and likeness, but in their spirit. And the only way we can match up with that is to have that same kind of spirit. And this is why that spirit's supposed to emanate from the man, because it originally comes from the Father which art in heaven and has to be transferred to that woman, that earthly woman, to help bring that marriage together in Mother Earth and Father Heaven. It's an image and likeness of that very marriage. And so while the male dresses up in the black, it's because it's something that's unseen. And the woman dresses up in white because it's so observable against the darkness.
Almost always in all white, right? Ascendant. The man is usually in black and white, like he's attending somebody's death, because it is his death. No, but think about it. It's the death of the bachelor mindset. It's the death of promiscuity. It's the death of the wandering eye. It's the death of immoral behavior. It's the death of texting girls casually. It's the death of I get to do what I want to do. It's the death of just going to the bar with friends. It's the death of acting like an infant. It's the death of playing video games till 1 a.m. And it's the birth of a man. There's a reason why the dress for the man is the same at a wedding and a funeral, because you're saying goodbye to your previous self. The woman is the icon, the symbol of beauty, almost always in all white, right? Ascendant. The man is usually in black and white, like he's attending somebody's death, because it is his death. No, but think about it. It's the death of the bachelor mindset. It's the death of promiscuity. It's the death of the wandering eye. It's the death of immoral behavior. It's the death of texting girls casually. It's the death.
Yes, because it's this part here, the death part, is dependent upon how the man sees it. He's expressing his perception. So for him, it was the death of those things that he's talking about. And it shows his spiritual character. Again, a man's intellect is limited and biased by his own vocabulary. So when you see a man that uses a vocabulary like this, and he's speaking spiritually and telling you his perception of how he died as that young man and became a new man. It's not that he died, but he passed on into a different venue, a different level, a different character, a different perspective in life. So when we get involved in communications with people and they speak the language that we like, we really need to start paying attention to what it is we like. Our language, again, that's that looking inwards. You look for solutions inwards, in, words, WARDS or WORDS. They're all the same thing. It's the words that you use. Coin your words or purse your lips. A man is bound by his word.
Of I get to do what I want to do. It's the death of just going to the bar with friends. It's the
See, the death of these things are his actual declarations of commitment that he's no longer going to go to the bar that he's no longer going to do those things and placate, that he's still that old person that gets to go out and party and do all as he wishes. He now has taken upon responsibility, a spiritual responsibility that says it has to supersede the manual responsibility. So even if that means you have to disjoin from the men's club, then you do so. The head of every nation starts at the family, not at the local bar with a bunch of men.
Death of acting like an infant. It's the death of playing video games till 1 a.m. And it's the birth of a man. There's a reason why the dress for the man is
the birth of a man. I call it the resurrection of a new man, the salvation, because you still maintain those other characters. They're still part of your story. They're still part of your journal. It's just that you've come out of that and you've reached the next level. That level is supposed to be maintaining a spirituality the rest of your life, along with your companion, to be have and behold through sickness and through health. Heal thyself. Physician, heal thyself. Know thyself. Look inwards. Here's a great one for the vegan debate. Vegan and vegetarian. And this is just something I threw in there because I think a lot of people are misconstrued about the source of life and what it is as a source of life to us. Without the source of life, we die. There's got to be some source that keeps us going throughout. Because if we take that little baby and we don't give him or her that source of life, then they shall perish very shortly. But the source of life we give them is just a small portion of the entirety of the source of life. And that source of life goes back in time, not forward, but back in time to an origin that no one actually knows in full. So you pay attention to every source of life that you can see, including the tree, the ant, the bird, the fish, all of them, the amphibians, the snakes. They're all sources of life themselves. They all create other lives. They all live symbiotically with each other in nature, taking advantage of what it needs at particular times as a source of life, to allow them to continue moving. That means many times they have to take the life of another. This is killing. If you don't comprehend the term killing, homicide, and murder, then you are going to be confused and think that they all mean the same. They do not. In law, you must kill. Legally, it is illegal to murder. It is illegal to commit homicide. In other words, the definition of kill is to kill for necessity. To murder or commit homicide, it is not of a necessity. It is not a source of life, but rather merely the actions of death. Nothing else. It's taking away.
You really want to kill the most things, be a vegan, because the farmers who protect your beans kill everything. I kill one animal per arrow. In order to grow tofu, you have to kill every ground squirrel, every vole, every shrew.
You guys know who this is, don't you? This is Ted Nugent. Very avid NRA guy. Very avid outdoorsman. Very avid guitar player. Most people know him for his guitar playing. You'd be surprised at the other sources that he uses for his life.
every snake, every turtle, every frog, every bird, every rabbit, anything that gets in that bean field, I'm either going to plow and dismember, and then if anything does survive my first slaughter, I'm going to come in with Monsanto and poison the shit out of everything so you can have a tofu salad and not be responsible for any death. Fuck you. If you
And I'm just going to play that one once. I think it sinks in pretty good. And this goes to the story of eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge. If you go to the tree of knowledge and there's fruit on the ground that's already ripened, it's already in season, then you're supposed to eat that fruit. But if you take from the tree because you want the best fruit, that's where you're wrong. You don't require the best. Take what you need. And the scripture tells us how to pay homage to the Mother Earth in a 7-year cycle. Just like you pay Sabbath to the Father one day every week, you pay Sabbath to the Mother one year every 7 years. It goes to being able to prosper in abundance. And you don't prosper in abundance by farming agriculturally and destroying the other sources of life for that one source. And something to lighten the mood up again. I always like these funny ones. But it goes to the ideology and how it's so against our natural being to be transgender. Transgender is just insane in its most pure form. It goes completely against the grain of our nature.
The men's locker room, dudes walking around naked. Women's locker room, women walk around naked. If a guy walked in to the women's locker room, a naked woman standing there, she would freak out. She'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here." But imagine if like a girl walked into the men's locker room, naked dude standing there getting some stuff out of the locker. He'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here." And like the locker room chatter would be so different. Same words, different intonation, right? In the women's locker room, it'd be like, "There's a guy in here. Yeah, I don't know. He just walked in." Men's locker room, "Dude, there's a girl in here. I don't know. She just walked in."
That intonation is so different in the very different nature of a man and a woman. And that's just the natural concepts that we hold. When it comes to the gender, that's not a concept. That's a reality. You are not a man if you have a pussy between your legs. You are not a woman if you have a cock hanging between your legs. It's a very natural observance that we can all see. And it's not just between our legs that we can see it. We see it at the chest level, whether a man have a breast or a chest. A lot of overweight men have what we call man boobs. Just calling them man boobs is fucking insane as well. It's one of the very minor things that people don't think about, that they don't see consequences in, when they have very profound consequences, as long as you're willing to let those little lies go. They are not man boobs. He's just fat. He needs to lose some weight. Let's get to the real discussion. It has nothing to do with sexual organs or sexual appearance. The sexual appearance is he's fat. So the next one.
in Trudeau who refused to acknowledge the word mankind because it was offensive. He said you had to use the word people kind. Two LGBT. So nobody does this in the real world. Everyone's a racist. Everyone's a transphobe. No, actually, this stuff is completely insane. I've got an 11-year-old girl myself. If this happened at her school and I found out that she'd been identifying as a boy, I would identify as a homicidal maniac.
And if you don't, as a mother and father of your own children, act the same way, it's you that I abhor. It's you that refuse not to take care of the children of Israel, but even your own children. And if you know that school is doing that stuff, why the fuck would you send them to such a place? It would only be because you're okay with it. And if you're okay with it, that's why I abhor you. Because even though they're not my children, I will stand up for those children because I too am a child myself. I am a child of Israel. I am not a child of you, and that child is not a child of you. They are a child of Israel. That is not your child.
Canada is run by a guy in Trudeau who refused to acknowledge the word mankind because it was offensive. He said you had to use the word people kind.
Mankind or people kind. You have a people that is a subclassification of a mankind. Mankind is all of man. A people is like the Chinese people, the Asian people, the African people, the European people, the American peoples. And so they're asking you to further declinate your mankindness to a people kind. The next thing you know, they're going to be person kind. Wait a minute. They already have that. And this mankind and people kind is merely a distraction. Whereas if you knew the words, it wouldn't be a distraction. It would be evidence to yourself of the insanity. But if you can't see the insanity, again, this is why I abhor you. You must be insane too. Again, if you don't like the way I'm fucking speaking, leave.
If Islam is so fantastic, why do Muslims always flee to Christian countries? Why not go to Saudi or another Muslim country?
Well, because Saudi Arabia actively prevents their Muslim neighbors from...
Notice all these videos on the side. Notice all these people. You do not see women and children. You do not see them in this, when it comes to the Islam immigration, you do not see them immigrating as families. You see the single men immigrating. Whereas when you see the Asians and the Mexicans and South Americans, and they're all immigrating as families. And then as soon as they get inside the borders, what happens? They separate them. Again, more insanity that people are unwilling to observe because they themselves are willing to agree with it in the insanity, saying that you can be a president if you're a felon, but you can't vote for a president if you're a felon. You fucking insane bitch ass slaves.
Going there, and the
why is
UK
that?
government or the US.
But why does Saudi prevent migrants going there?
Look, I'm not an ambassador for the Saudi government.
Isn't it because Christian lands are free and tolerant and open? And isn't that the very thing that Muslims try and change when they arrive in our country? Why not go to Saudi? Why not go to another country where
because when you
the
have
Muslim
a kid,
faith is practiced? Tell me.
when you have a kid on your hands, you try to find any refuge. Literally, you would go across the Mediterranean even if you don't know how to swim. You would do anything possible for your 2-year-old.
We don't see any women and children on the boats across the Med.
We do see, but even
if Islam is so fantastic, why do Muslims?
So you see what happens. And this is why I ask people about the passport. If you have to have a passport to leave, isn't that a type of imprisonment? See, when they placate that the Muslims are coming over here to shut down our borders and make it a Muslim country, I guarantee you the borders are already shut down. When President Trump was talking about the border wall, he's talking about the documentation. They'll let as many people come in as they want, as long as those people are willing to fill out the applications and be part of the documentation. This is what they're using to violate your freedom to travel with your Father which art in heaven. For the land shall not be sold forever, for it is his. So I don't care if you're on a Muslim land, an American Christian land, a European Christian land. I don't care if you're on communist land. It's land. And by laying such a false claim to it, you are the blasphemer.
Muslims always flee to Christian countries. Why not go to Saudi or another Muslim country?
Well, because Saudi Arabia actively prevents their Muslim neighbors from going there. And the UK government or the...
See, Saudi Arabia prevents people from coming in. And they classify the people that they don't want coming in. Anybody else? Free. All you got to do is get a visa. All you got to do is talk to the ministers and say, hey, I'm a worldly minister spreading the word of truth of our Father which art in heaven. Can I come see your country? Sure. All they got to do is clarify that you're not a national security threat. So if you're not a national security threat, because you have no national securities going on, and you're actually above and beyond as a prophet unto the nations, ministering the word of God, instead of administering the word of, according to Romans 13, verse 1, where there is no authority but which is ordained of God, and then you administer it by adding unto the word, you have already violated the scripture in thou shalt not add unto nor take away from the word of God. You blasphemers with 8 million codes, proving your blasphemy.
But why does Saudi prevent migrants going there?
Look, I'm not an ambassador for the Saudi government. Isn't it because...
I'm not an ambassador for the Saudi government, but you're an ambassador for another government. And that's the wrong ambassadorship. You're not an ambassador for government. You're an ambassador for the spiritual credence that flows through you. And that is what you are transmitting and utilizing in this world. And thereby rebutting the transmitting utility of personage. Again, it goes to the language, folks. Here's another good one.
Women got a pool or got paid out from a pool of $30 million from the Women's World Cup. The men would draw from a pool of $400 million, okay?
So you have to know the source, the origins of everything you talk about. So when the women come up and talk about this uneven scale of pay rate, I guarantee you they are wrong. When you look at the statistical records, and again, it's all about commercialism and personage. So if you placate your pay rate is off, pay attention, because you can do this in every venue for everything. I don't care what kind of job it is. I don't care if it's executive, legislative, McDonald's, or whatever, mom and pop store, whatever. It's across the board. Women get paid more than men according to the percentage rates.
Okay, $400 million, $30 million. Why is that? It's because the Men's World Cup generates $6 billion in revenue. The Women's World Cup generates $131 million in revenue. If you want to talk about pay disparity, the Women's World Cup players get paid out 20% of the total revenue. The men get paid out 7%.
Stop with your statistics. Statistics are sexist. Stop that.
The women got a pool or got paid out from a pool.
Did you hear that? Women in soccer get paid out almost 3 times as much as men, according to the value of the revenue generated in those venues.
Of $30 million from the Women's World Cup. The men would draw from a pool of $400 million, okay? $400 million, $30 million. Why is that? It's because the Men's World Cup generates $6 billion in revenue. The Women's World Cup generates $131 million in revenue. If you want,
and I'm going to pose that if you had women's professional mud wrestling versus men's professional mud wrestling, the women's professional mud wrestling would probably generate more value in that pool than the men. And if it did, and this is just a projection, I don't know if there's any such thing. I don't know if I've ever heard of men's mud wrestling professional or even women's. But if it was professional and marketed and valued in those venues, I guarantee you the women's venue would probably have that greater pooled value. And therefore we would see the disparity of women getting paid less percentage-wise than the men. Same thing for the contract, because if it's going to bring more money, there's going to be more hands in that contract, and therefore more of it's going to go towards advertisement and outside investors.
I want to talk about pay disparity. The Women's World Cup players get paid out 20% of the total revenue. The men get paid out 7%.
Stop with your statistics. Statistics are sexist. Stop.
Statistics are sexist. Because men will always hold more value than women, because they have to be the spiritual seed. The women are the material seed. The men are the spiritual seed. If you don't get that in your life, your children are already destroyed. And so I urge men to quit being simps and act appropriately.
You have what it takes.
Well, obviously. Do you not think I have what it takes?
Well, you just made those eyes.
As I should be.
I'm a little sketched out right now. Might be making me nervous.
That's the whole point.
Do you have what it takes?
This is one of the ugliest women in the world in my mind. If you think that that's all it takes is your presence, you're a fucking slut. You're a fucking whore. You have no spiritual comprehension whatsoever. You are the intercourse. You are the pussy. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman when it comes to this. If you think it only takes your presence to have a value, then you are insane. This young man did exactly what I'd have done. Turned around and walked away. If you can't present anything more than just your physical appearance, then you should be lonely the rest of your life, in my opinion. But again, we live in this world that's so fucking insane. People like this will get together with other people like this and somehow manage to live a life bearing children that grow up the same, if not worse.
Well, obviously. Do you not think I have what it takes?
Well, you just made those eyes.
As I should be.
I'm a little sketched out right now. Might be making me nervous.
That's the whole point.
The whole point is to make other people nervous. Again, your intellect is limited and biased by your vocabulary. So if you don't know how to speak on the topic, then maybe you should shut the fuck up.
Oh, this is good. Listen to this.
Why does God allow cruelty and suffering in the world?
There's two types of cruelty and suffering. So if we're talking about human cruelty and suffering, because God does not intervene to prevent people from exercising their free will, because to do so would be to deprive human beings of the choice that makes them human. And this is the sin of the Garden of Eden, basically, is that God could make you an angel, in which case you wouldn't have the choice to do the wrong thing. But so long as we are going to allow for cause and effect in a universe shaped by your choice, cruelty and evil are going to exist. And then there's the question of just the natural cruelty and vicissitudes of life. And the answer there is, I think that God obscures himself. I think that if God were to appear in all of his glory to people on a regular basis, I think that would make faith, you wouldn't need it. There'd be no such thing as faith, right? It would just be reality, right? Nobody has to prove to you that the sun rises every day. If God is to allow us the choice to believe in him, which is the ultimate choice from a religious point of view, then he's going to have to obscure himself behind tragedy and horror and all those other things. I mean, this is a fairly well-known Kabbalistic concept called Tzimtzum in Judaism, which is the idea that when God created the universe, he sort of withdrew in order to make space for all of these things to happen.
Oh, this is good.
And this is why we have the scripture that says ye are gods, because God doesn't exist in this world as he's portraying here. I don't believe he does either. I believe God stepped aside and left us to our own will. He left us a guide in this life known as Jesus Christ to give us an example of how to find that will that will serve us best. And that is the spiritual will of paying attention to Mother Earth and honoring thy Father which art in heaven, thy mother in earth, and loving thy neighbor as thyself. The supreme commandments that everybody loses, and the first one they lose is honoring the Father which art in heaven. Therefore, there's no way you can love thy neighbor as thyself if you don't know the true origin of that love, and that it is passed through Mother Earth, as we are material beings formed of the dust of the ground and mixing with the mother's waters. And then when we are cast forth and discharged of mother's waters as man, the man is discharged of the mother's waters. And when he takes his first breath, he becomes a living soul. This is what is destroyed through the enumeration at birth, where mom and dad don't recognize that they're supposed to be heralding the next legacy heir. You don't even have to give a name. It's private. And when he becomes of age of majority, he can then declare upon the world what he wants the world to call him. Until then, we're going to call him such and such, but it's private. To you, he is a legacy heir. And this is our right to protect him so he's not brought into public documentation, not brought into personage before he's of age.
Good. Listen to this.
Why does God allow cruelty and suffering in the world?
There's two types of cruelty and suffering. So if we're talking about human cruelty and suffering, because God does not intervene to prevent people from exercising their free will, because
by your free will of going to that hospital, you are creating the very suffering for your children. You are the one that is not ministering the word of God, and therefore you are creating the suffering yourself manually in the material world. Ye are gods, and ye can correct it.
to do so would be to deprive human beings of the choice that makes them human. And this is the sin of the Garden of Eden, basically, is that God could make you an angel, in which case you wouldn't have the choice to do the wrong thing. But so long as we are going to allow for cause and effect in a universe shaped by your choice, cruelty and evil are going to exist. And then there's
shaped by your choice. You have a choice. That if you have plenty of food, you don't need to go to your neighbor. You have a choice that if you don't have enough food, you can go to your neighbor and ask. You don't have to steal. However, in that choice, if you don't have and you need and your neighbor doesn't give you, then you have another choice of just taking it. But that taking has consequences as well. So you have to learn how to weigh the measure of your own life against the life's consequences.
There's the question of just the natural cruelty and vicissitudes of life. And the answer there is I think that God obscures himself. I think that if God were to appear in all of his glory to people on a regular basis, I think that would make faith, you wouldn't need it. There'd be no such thing as faith, right? It would just be reality, right? Nobody has to prove to you that the sun rises every day. If God is to allow us the choice to believe in him, which is the ultimate choice from a religious point of view, then he's going to have to obscure himself behind tragedy and horror and all those other things. I mean, this is a fairly well-known Kabbalistic concept called Tzimtzum in Judaism, which is the idea that when God created the universe, he sort of withdrew in order to make space for all of these things to happen.
Basic concept of capitalism. And that's where the government steps out of place and just lets it happen. Okay? So now you have to reach out to that capitalist stepping out of and let them know, hey, this is happening and it needs to be corrected, because otherwise it's going to be held against your credit. This is how powerful it is to know the difference between manual credit and spiritual credit. The next one, pay attention, folks. Pay attention. This guy's got some powerful words too, Mr. Kennedy.
God bless this man. Listen to this.
Americans do not deserve to be governed by deeply weird, narcissistically woke people who hate George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Dr. Zeus, and Mr. Potato Head, who hyperventilate on their yoga mats if you use the wrong pronoun, who think kids should be able to change their gender at recess, who carry around Ziploc bags of kale to give them energy, and who think they are better than us. By the way, to me, kale tastes like I'd rather be fat.
God bless this man. Listen.
He's going by his own observances, and his body is telling him that it doesn't like kale. That's all it is. It's one of the most basic, primal, spiritual feelings, is the distaste of something.
Listen to this.
Americans do not deserve to be governed by deeply weird, narcissistically woke people who hate George.
Janet Yellen, Secretary of Treasury. Fucking weird. Fucking weird to have a transgender, insane motherfucker taking the finances of the country as an obligation and responsibility. This is the insanity of people that would place such insane people in such places and then say, okay, we're going to let you manage our books. Somebody that can't even clearly distinguish who they are. How the fuck do you think they're going to be able to clearly distinguish who you are if they can't even figure that out for themselves? This fucking insanity. This is 2023. I can't believe we have those kind of people in office. It's thick. It's psychotic. It's insane.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Dr. Zeus, and Mr. Potato Head, who hyperventilate on their yoga mats if you use the wrong pronoun.
Wrong pronoun. Let's think about the pronouns. See, we're talking about the pronouns here in the modern time as it relates to transgender. But you know, there's been pronouns around for a long time, African American being one of them. And when you think about the nations and all their names, those are other pronouns. And I'll be damned if not every last one of them is trademarked.
Who think kids should be able to change their gender at recess, who carry around Ziploc bags of kale to give them energy, and who think they are better than us.
Like Mitchell posed yesterday on Paul's, I'm better than you. Fucking insane cuck. Go suck some more cock, Mitch. Bitch. Snitch.
By the way, to me, kale tastes like I'd rather be fat.
And as we talk about vegan, I don't know why I didn't put this with the other one, but this is one of the funniest fucking vegan jokes I've ever heard. And it says so. The funniest vegan joke you've ever heard. And pay attention. This kid is funny as fuck. And he's right on point.
You're about to watch the single greatest moment in television history.
A vegan and a vegetarian are jumping off a cliff to see who hit the bottom first. Who wins?
I don't know.
Who wins? Society.
So I say get rid of all of the insane motherfuckers and let's do it now. Go jump off the bridge. 98% of them will do it, and the society will be better for it. Isn't that what we've been watching all of these decades? 98% of the people willing to jump off a bridge just because some dumb fucking insane motherfucker told them to? It's fucking sick.
If you group 2-year-olds together and watch them interact, about 4% of the males, almost none of the females, about 4% of the males at age 2 will kick, hit, bite, and steal. Okay, so that's not very many. That's 2% of the population. It's 1 in 50. So it's not much different from but most of those kids, despite their temperamental proclivity to be aggressive, are socialized by the age of 4. Almost all of them.
If their parents socialize them.
Or someone does.
Someone does, right.
Could be siblings, right? But someone has to socialize them. Maybe help them either control that aggression or integrate it. Better to integrate it. The kids who don't have that integrated by the age of 4, they're in for a pretty dismal ride. There isn't a lot of clinical evidence suggesting that if those traits are still in place at the age of 4, that they can be ameliorated at that point. And those are the kids that turn into bullies. If you group 2-year-olds together.
And so as it relates to myself as a young man, growing up in foster homes, moving from place to place and being bullied myself, I grew up in a very violent part of my life. Being very violent because I was forced to. So yeah, it's no wonder somebody reaches across my tray, across the table and tries to take food off my tray. I'm gonna stab them. You come up to me with a shovel and threaten to knock me out. I'm gonna do everything I can to do exactly what you threatened to do to me. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I've grown up this way. I'm still this way. It's not gonna stop. It's my inherent nature. I wasn't indoctrinated into believing that I had to let somebody just take food off my tray and then complain to somebody else as if though somebody else had authority to take action for me. Actions speak louder than words, so I will yell in everything I do. So when you see me type in all caps and you want to call that yelling, that's fine. You can call that yelling. When you actually hear me yelling, fine, you can call that yelling. But when you see me assaulting somebody, it's only because I'm yelling. And I'm yelling because you need to pay attention to the origin. See, it wasn't me that had the shovel to begin with. It was them. And simply because I was able to take that shovel and commence the actions they were willing to take doesn't mean I'm the bad guy. And the origins of me stabbing the motherfucker was because he was reaching across the table, taking food off my tray. If he hadn't been doing that, I wouldn't have been able to reach him to stab him. So when the kids are yelling out that they're being bullied, pay attention to them. Because they likely got it from you. They likely got it from you.
Oh, yeah.
They likely got it from you that they should let somebody bully them and tell the teacher about it. And then the teacher doesn't have any authority to discipline, so they got to make a report and call the police or some shit like that. And the last one to have any authority is mom and dad, because you registered that child to have that happen to them. You're the bully. You're the bully out of your own laziness. You're the bully that refuses to teach them the spiritual credence of the very actions that they're supposed to take when those kind of things happen. And you don't have to subject them to a public system that allows those things to happen and teach them some other way to respond like a fucking beta cuck pussy. Raise your children as warriors, and they won't have any problem determining what sex they are when they get to that point.
Country is doomed. It is doomed, not just because of African Americans.
This is Biden. Yes, you heard it correctly. So when I talk about the anti-Semitism, starting with the thought of Christianity, we have a politician standing up saying that the country is doomed because of African Americans, but not just because of them, but because of them and these other factors. Do you hear it? He said it. Worldwide. He's a fucking racist. He blames the African American for the downfall of the country, just like the Christians and the Muslims and everybody else around the world that wants to blame the Jews for the downfall.
But because by 2040, this country is going to be minority white.
And therefore, because the white man is a minority, it is going to lose power. Stating again that it was because the white man that this country had power. How fucking insane. Are you guys going to keep listening to these kind of people and keep voting these kind of people into office? Are you going to keep voting, or are you going to learn how to fucking stand up and yell?
European. Hear me? Minority white European. And you guys are going to have to start working more with Hispanics, who make up a larger portion of the population than y'all do.
See, now they're talking about portions of populations of different people. Remember our discussion about mankind and people kind and person kind and all? They've been doing it for all along 8,000 years, 8 millennia. Ever since they started keeping records. It's a statistical element. They included the people as volunteers into that statistical element through the census that was originated back in Roman era, Jesus Christ time. Yeah. Then all of a sudden they switched the calendar, didn't they? You realize that's what it was, right? It was the recognition of the people being a major part of the statistics in their minor elements.
Doomed, you say? Wow. Did it really just say that? Like, Brandon.
Country is doomed. It is doomed, not just because of African Americans.
Not just because of African Americans, is saying that it is doomed because of African Americans and these other factors. The man is a racist and believes that because the white man is now a minority, that the country is doomed, that no other people can stand up in the same power. Whereas that power comes from original source. And if you carry the power of the word, then the country is not doomed. Here's one of my favorite ones. And I want everybody to pay particular attention to this one because, again, it goes to the patent observances, the obvious observances, the things that you can clearly see, as into presentment, your physical presentment, as we saw in that video earlier with the nice looking gal with the nice long legs and the nice shiny outfit, and the guy that kind of walked away because that's all she presented was her looks. Your looks present a lot more than just what that you think they do.
Are you gonna assume that I'm gay just because I have rainbow hair, wearing a rainbow shirt, and I got a rainbow tie?
Are you going to assume that I'm gay just because I rainbow this and rainbow that and rainbow this and rainbow that? If your entire life is about rainbow, 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 yeah, I'm going to presume that you're gay and wonder which kind of he, they, he, she, they, he, them, whatever fucking pronouns you want to go by. But rather than do all that, I'm just going to turn around and walk away from your clown ass.
How can you assume that I'm disabled just because I have a messed up body with messed up hands and I drive a mobility scooter because I can't walk?
How are you going to assume that I'm black because I have dark skin and I can say the word nig?
How are you gonna assume that I'm?
So how are you going to assume that I'm not a child of Israel as an image and likeness? Because you wear a funny fucking clown suit. You think it's about chasing the bag. You got the nice clothes on with all the nice trademark and logos. You refuse to wear just plain t-shirts and plain jeans and plain sneakers. You got to have the name brand stuff. You got to support the corporation that's creating all of the insanity. See, it's what you support openly that tells me. It's what you support openly that tells me that you may be deceived. See, if I'm going to get a brand name or a logo, it's going to have something impressive upon it that is from my perspective. I'm not going to wear something that somebody else would wear. I'm not going to go around wearing rainbow shit because somebody else wants me to wear rainbow shit and profess that I accept their pronouns as transgender. Why would I do that? So if I do it, it would be because I voluntarily express that I'm gay, lesbian, transgender, black, white, male, female. See, all of that stuff, none of it matters when you look at each other as an image and likeness, and you can make certain observations that even though you have the similar type body, there might be a little height difference or width difference or something like that. You might have a color change, a difference in color, a difference in skin color, but there's still an image and likeness that's quite familiar, which is where you get the term family, familius, which is a servant of the house. It's a bond servant of the house. So it's a husband. It's the house bond. And it's his house I live in. So you can't say I'm homeless. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me, which is the only thing that I would use that says that God isn't void of this world. As the scripture says otherwise, that the land is mine and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. But it plays into the part about ye are God's because God is within you.
Oh, yeah.
He's not outside of you. He's already extricated himself from that part so that you can operate with him inside. This is the way I interpret it anyway. So let's get back.
Gay just because I have rainbow hair.
Watch this one more time.
Shirt, I got a rainbow tie.
How can you assume that I'm disabled just because I have a messed up body with messed up hands, and I drive a mobility scooter because I can't walk.
How are you gonna assume that I'm black because I have dark skin and I can say the word nig?
How are you gonna assume that I'm gay just because I have rainbow hair, wearing a rainbow shirt, I got a rainbow tie flag behind?
How can you assume that I'm disabled just because I have a messed up body with messed up hands, and I drive a mobility scooter because I can't walk?
How are you gonna assume that I'm black because I have dark skin and I can say the word nig?
And Horde, if you're out there, this one's for you, buddy. Just want you to be careful out there flying around. I know it's the end of the season for you here, but just pay attention. Please be careful. Enjoy your flight. That's what happens when a bird hits the windshield of an airplane. So when you think about 911 and the tragedy that struck in 2001, and those planes that went into the building, all the way into the building, instead of crushing the plane on the outside of the building, we have to start questioning these observances. Granted, the plane may have been able to go into that building a little bit, but I guarantee you, it wouldn't have gone all the way through. It wouldn't have caused the damage that it caused. A little bird going through a window shows you how destructible the plane itself is. Look at the planes that are damaged by birds in flight. You'll see the damage. And we're not just talking about windows. We're talking about metal, the aluminum. And that's all it is aluminum. So there's no way, even though it may have some steel structure in there to hold some of those aluminum parts together, like the bolts, there's nothing on that plane that could have provided for what we saw on September 11th, 2001. None whatsoever. It's insane that we still placate that is true, real, and has any effect other than the cybersecurity laws that they're using to pose that I'm a terrorist in one way or another for telling the truth. This is the way it's going. They're trying to pose that people that are telling the truth are terrorists because the truth scares people so much that it would ruin their lives in this modern commercial society. Again, them agricultural farms, those big industrial farms, killing off all those animals, that's murder and homicide according to the laws of nature, because you're not doing what is spiritually credited. You are doing what is manually credited, and that is condemnation of the land in order to perform on it commercially. The land shall not be sold forever. And they didn't sell it. They condemned it and then started performing commercially on it. In all of the lands of your possession, ye shall grant a redemption. The only way you're going to be able to grant that redemption is if they can hear you. And I guarantee you, sooner or later, you're going to have to learn how to fucking yell. You're going to have to learn how to put your foot down. You're going to have to learn how to stand your square and quit letting them disposition you by calling you names. That's what they do. They use the name to disposition you from your spiritual credit by applying a manual credit. And then you, in your ego, fall subject to that manual credit under false values of gold and silver, thinking that's what the asset is. Your true asset is your spiritual credit. The word. A man is bound by his word. I hope you guys are getting with it, because I'm not the blasphemer. I don't pose any truths. I pose what I see and the truth that I get out of it. And if you can rebut that truth, then please do so, because I don't want to stand here like an idiot. But until somebody does, everything I've said so far has been proven to be true. And yet I'm the one that's called a fraud. I'm the one that is called a blasphemer. I'm the one that they say is causing harm, damage, and injury to others. Never happened. Never happened. So think about it, folks, and remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. So may God bless you. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.